I'm Meteorite, and today we're going to build a trap house. The idea behind building a trap house isn't to make fun of the lifestyle or people subject to that lifestyle, or to even make light of it. The idea is to flex our creative building muscles within the Sims and stretch the program to our greatest ability to show how easily a charming home can turn into a drug den. To make the home as realistic as possible, I modeled it after an apartment building that my grandmother used to live in. Now, it wasn't a trap house by any means. She had a very cute little apartment, but oftentimes your build can seem more realistic or more fluid if you base it off of a home you've been in before. Now, what we're doing is we're starting out with a normal craftsman style home. Drug houses don't start out as drug houses. They start out as cute little homes that eventually become subject to much neglect and abuse. Now, we'll say back in the 20s or 30s, when this home would have been created based on the style. Sally wasn't looking at a Sears home catalog thinking, well, gee, Marty, a crack den sounds just great. No, they started out as normal, cute homes where people wanted to raise their families. The homes often have their own stories, where Christmases were celebrated, birthdays were celebrated, children were brought into the homes, and eventually that all falls apart. So we start out with a very potentially cute build, and then we put in the grit, the grime, the neglect as we go forward. What's going to make this home seem realistic is the amount of very small and precise detail that we put in it. And that detail will show a lot of neglect over time. We'll start with the walkway, the pavers up front. Break those up, and unfortunately we have to do them in quarters, so everything's all jagged. But that's okay, we can work around that. Using the yard as our canvas, really, painting on different types of colors, different types of rocks, different types of dirt, different types of weeds, making it look like the rocks are truly broken up and stamped into the ground over time. Where crabgrass is just kind of taken over, pebbles are all over the place. And now that we can actually downsize our objects with the last really big update, you can take all of these plants and make them really small, make it look like it's just kind of growing up and popping through these broken up pavers. If you make them small enough, your sim can walk right through them, but you need to be careful. Still create some sort of a walkway where they can kind of zigzag their way to the stairs if necessary. The idea here is to kind of cover up a lot of those jagged edges while leaving enough room for the sim to be able to walk through. Just kind of vary the size of plants. When they're really small, they kind of look like just overgrown weeds. Move them around as much as you can, throw in some bigger rocks. Really make this place look like it just hasn't been loved or cared for in a very long time. And the more you take the time to put in great detail, the better it's going to look. It does take a lot of time, but it definitely pays off. The idea is to just make the yard look like nobody cares whether or not anybody walks through it. If there's any kind of grass that's truly in it, it's basically lucky to be there. Now, it's important to remember to extend all of this neglect and all of this detail to the sides and the back of the house, but it does take time. Now, something I was able to do here, because I put large trim across the roof. If you now you have to make sure you have your grid snapped on for this, or the plants won't snap onto it. But just kind of made it look like there was a lot of plant overgrowth from gutters that were absolutely never cleaned out, and downsized these little bamboo trees to make them look like they're, some kind of tree or something that's growing in there. If you've ever grown up next to a maple tree, you'll know that it's pretty easy to have a tree grow in your gutter if you're not careful. Now, all of these cracks, the wear and tear that I'm putting on the windows, the siding, all of that comes from the vampire pack, and there are only so many of them. So I resize them, move them around as much as I can. I make sure that the cracks line up with the siding, as best as they can. As long as you're varying the size and you're watching how you repeat these particular textures, it really won't look all that bad. It won't look weird because that won't be the main focus. It'll just kind of add a bit of aesthetic authenticity. This was kind of a challenge, putting in a swimming pool that was empty. You can't really have an empty swimming pool, right? So just build a room on the floor below, throw in a set of stairs. It'll allow you to select the ceiling, delete the ceiling. Then put in some tile around the sides and around the bottom, whatever you like, whatever you think fits a swimming pool. And then I chose to go through and put in some broken up tiles and some grass, just like I did with the pavers out front, and really made this look like a bunch of stuff was growing in it and a bunch of trash. You can still hook the pool ladder to the side of it too, it's kind of cool. Now for this build, something that I don't like doing, but I did do for this build because you need so much chaos and so much clutter, was I used the unknown objects. So what you do is you type in unknown in the search bar, a bunch of unknown options will pop up, click the one at the very top and a bunch of items will show up. These items do not transfer over to the community uploads, so keep that in mind if you want to share it with your friends, but just for your use you can use it, and it can make for a pretty authentic build. Just like you search for unknown objects, if you search fishing, a little pond will come up, and if you raise that up a couple of notches, you can get this water effect, and I offset it to the side so it looks like there's just kind of standing water in there. When you press play, when you play the game, you'll see some animation for some fish flopping around in there. It's kind of funny, but, you know. So clearly the backyard's going to be all messed up as well. You're going to have a bunch of trees that are just as old as the house, maybe older. Use a toy car from the kids' selection. Make it several times bigger so it looks like it's real and it's just kind of sitting there in the backyard somewhere. And I'll be honest, I started to get tired with the amount of detail that's really kind of going into the yard. By the time I got to the very back of the house and I just kind of started putting in plants where I could, but still managed to make it look pretty good too. So I'm pretty happy about that. Again, with putting in some smaller trees just where nobody has went through and gardened anywhere. And what's a trap house without a bunch of appliances and children's toys and all sorts of stuff in the front yard? A bunch of trash, right? And here's where we heavily get into object use for the unknown objects, which used to be called Debug. Now you have to search unknown if you're kind of wondering what I'm talking about and you're used to doing this. The key to this build is to throw as much stuff all over the place that's absolutely disgusting. Everything from trash to bottles, unknown objects, spoons, things that look like needles, baby bottles, really kind of anything that you can think of. Paying close attention to the detail that's inside is pretty important. The home, again, wasn't always a trap house. It used to be a little home for a family. The furniture that's in it didn't start out disgusting. It's worn and not cared for, just like the rest of the home. Everything's kind of off-center, askew, thrown all over the place. Gotta have the right type of rug, make everything look worn. Put in a radio and some speakers. Gotta have your jams when you're partying. And really bust up the walls. Everything from cracks to smudges, anything you can possibly think of. Graffiti on the walls. You know, you don't want like any stands. Everything just kind of needs to look hodgepodge, like it's thrown all over the place. You get a really cute lamp. Like maybe this living room was actually a really nice little place where people used to watch their favorite TV shows with their families or Christmas specials. And there's just remnants of that left behind, and it brings in a form of realism. Now you'll see I'm putting in like different types of needles and weird stuff that actually doesn't really kind of come with the game. You can't just like throw needles all over the place. And what I'm doing is I'm taking objects from the pets pack where you can, you know, run your own veterinary clinic. I'm taking those objects and using them and throwing them all over the place. And it works pretty well. Everything from clothes to old food to random packages. I don't know why I threw a turkey baster up there, but it sounded good at the time. Random pots and pans. Buckets of, you know, water, weird liquids, I guess. Trash all over the place. Graffiti on the floor. Clothes thrown all over. Pizza boxes all over. there's really not too much detail you can add. The only thing I have to say is, again, just make sure if you actually want to use this home with Sims, just make sure that they can walk around. So plan your clutter. Pretty nasty having some garbage on your couch, but we're going for realism, right? This isn't a place that normal people would stay. And you'll actually find that some of these things, like the medicine, the cough syrup, some of the drinks and whatever, your Sims can actually drink and use those. And if you happen to have a neat Sim who's in here, they will go around and clean. They'll clean up all these dirty dishes and all the cups and throw things away. So just kind of be mindful of that when you put your Sims in here. Now for the area that should be the dining room, we'll put in a cook area. These beakers and glasses that we're putting in here, these all came with a career pack for the science career, so again, the creators of The Sims aren't encouraging us to make trap houses or for our Sims to live druggy lives. It's just a matter of taking our tools and using them in a creative way. Now the little chemistry set that we're putting in here, that's actually a child's chemistry set. You can't use it. Like only kids can use it, but it looks good, right? So you put in a table, messed up wall, a couple of chairs, and then just litter up the place. And that's pretty much going to be the entire house. But adding in elements of, hey, this is actually somebody's home, or hey, this used to be a really great little house. That's what really sucks you into the realism of the game. And to know just how easy it is to fall into a terrible lifestyle and for your home to be destroyed. Now all of these worn cabinets and appliances, they're all supposed to be for cheaper options for poor Sims or for the city life expansion or whatever that's called. But it works for our purposes. Again, probably not the way it was intended. But that's okay. Pretty gross kitchen. But at least we don't have to eat in there, right? Now when we're moving over to the bathroom, there's only so much you can truly do to a bathroom. There really wouldn't be a whole lot in here. Stuff would kind of just be thrown all over the place. You know, we can't tear up the shower. The game just doesn't allow it. So really kind of make anything that's useful seem kind of empty, worn, throw some trash all over the place. We'll put in some wallpaper that looks like, you know, at one time it was really charming. The wallpaper's old. It's probably original to the house. Throw trash in all over the place. Downsize trash and stuff. Put it in the toilet. Make it look like the toilet's just full of nasty stuff. And your Sims can still use the toilet with that in there. You know, hang a picture or something. Just give it those elements of realism so you can actually connect to your house. And it doesn't feel like just a weird hodgepodge of trash. Take time to make one of your bedrooms something personal. Put in a portrait. So it looks like your Sims have a true story and there was someone or something they connected to or they loved. And sometimes life just takes a turn for the worst. So, you know, you throw kids' toys or food or whatever in some of these bedrooms, and that doesn't mean that necessarily you feel comfortable bringing a child into this atmosphere because maybe you wouldn't, right? But that's just how you bring those elements of realism to it. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this build. It is time consuming, but it's very much worth it when you want to challenge yourself, kind of flex those building muscles, flex your creativity, come up with something new and something different. Again, this is a house that can be played. Tailor your Sims' personalities to it. See how far you can take it. And I'll leave you with this until our next build.